I worked just shy of 40 years, but my pension still wasn't going to be enough for us. So when he called out of the blue, offering a free pension review, I was all ears. He spoke professionally about investments. He seemed a really decent guy. Just shy of 40 years pension. He took all of it.
Seriously popular.
Welcome to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. I am Sarah Vine, and he is...
I am.
Peter Hitchens. And today, Peter and I will be discussing the war in Iran.
Well, the war on Iran, as you might call it.
The war on Iran.
Yeah.
Please join us after this.
This is James Fuad from Shits and Gigs, and we're currently sponsored by TUI.
So, we love going on holiday together, love travelling and new experiences, but we can't always agree on where to go.
But that's okay, as this is where TUI comes in. With TUI, there's more options and more choice, with hundreds of destinations worldwide.
So, whatever first you want to mark, whether it's your first time away with your mates or the first time doing something new on holiday, we've chatted about trying jet skiing and trying to catch some live sports. TUI has the answer.
TUI, you pick it, they sort it. Booking T's and C's apply, ATOL and ABDA protected.
Ready to launch your business? Get started with the commerce platform made for entrepreneurs. Shopify is specially designed to help you start, run, and grow your business with easy customizable themes that let you build your brand, marketing tools that get your products out there, integrated shipping solutions that actually save you time, from startups to scale-ups, online, in person, and on the go. Shopify is made for entrepreneurs like you.
Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/setup.
Self-praise is no praise, except for people talking about their jobs online. Like, what my barista taught me about B2B sales, or how losing a pub quiz made me a better team player. Really? Here at Indeed, we're more show than tell. Our profiles help you showcase your skills and experience so employers can focus on what you do, not what you talk about. Because actions speak louder than buzzwords. Download the Indeed app and start making the world work better for you today.
Welcome back to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. I am Sarah Vine, and he is Peter Hitchens. And
So I am.
he is indeed. And he's being very brave today because he's had his jab, or measles jab.
Shingles. Actually.
Shingles jab. So, yes.
I've had measles
He's had measles.
some time ago, actually during a historical period.
Of course.
No longer studied in school.
So thank you for taking the time, Peter, in your moment of medical.
Well, so far so good.
So far so good.
I might keel over during
Yes.
this, but at the moment.
Well, we'll just keep feeding you custard creams in the hope that that'll keep you going.
Yeah, they are well-known antidote to shingles vaccine side effects.
Peter, tell us about your subject this week. I mean, I think it's obvious.
Well, my subject is war,
Yes.
and the pity of war, and indeed the weirdness of it. And there are many, many aspects of this. One of them being that an awful lot of people in this country are more militant than the Americans. Support for the attack on Iran in the United States, as the last time I looked, was somewhere around about 1 person in 4. There's an awful lot of doubt about it, an awful lot of objection to it, an awful lot of very correct pointing out that this is precisely what Donald J. Trump said specifically, clearly and unequivocally he would not do and was not in favour of.
So what do you think changed his mind?
Well, it's an interesting question, isn't it? One wonders whether he actually has a mind to change or whether he is, I'm not quite sure what the word would be, detached from reality in some way, but to act so completely in contradiction to what you have openly said and to one of the planks by which you have won office seems to me to be very, very strange. But I leave that to the Americans. They can sort it out. They voted for him. They have a chance in the midterm elections to give their verdicts on this and to say what they think of his moving around. What disturbs me is the curious near unanimity of British media and political establishment opinion that this war is a brilliant thing, and that anybody who says anything to suggest that it might not be is an agent of the late Ayatollah Khamenei and a supporter of the Islamic Republic and someone who wants to force women to wear veils and hang people from cranes in public squares. Whereas the truth is that it seems to me, in simple historic terms, to be an act of extraordinary rashness, not in any way backed by the sort of provocation necessary for action of this level of violence, and also an act which was extraordinarily dangerous to undertake because we cannot know how it will end. This is always the greatest risk in war. I wish I had the Winston Churchill quote to hand in which he said, the moment you begin a war, you lose control, really, of your own actions and decisions. So why is it that in Britain, a country which barely has a rowing boat to its name, is filled with people shouting urgently for more war and denouncing anybody, including the Prime Minister, who has any caution about it at all? I've been, I think, one of the most prominent and consistent, long-lasting and excoriating critics of the Prime Minister in the country. But I have to say that his hesitation involving Britain in this war seems to me to be probably the most intelligent thing he's ever done, and I regret that he's pulled back from it. And when I hear Donald Trump saying, well, he's not Winston Churchill, I don't know what comes to your mind when you hear Donald Trump saying that Keir Starmer isn't Winston Churchill. One thing is, who thought he was? And the other is, and you're not Franklin Roosevelt either, Buster. And what business is it of yours to tell me, a British person, who should be governing my country? We aren't some maple syrup state that can be told how to run itself by the White House. Any proper patriotic British Conservative must bridle at any foreign leader criticising our head of government, however bad we may think he is. He's ours, not theirs. So all those things come together in a kind of avalanche of distress at what seems to me to be an almost total lack of critical faculty. And I have to put this to you, Sarah, because unless your Twitter account has been hacked, you recently said, all these middle-class intellectuals sticking up for a regime that imprisoned, raped, tortured and killed its womenfolk for daring to demand the most basic human rights, will you look at yourselves, will you look at your own daughters and wives and ask, would you tolerate this if it were happening here? Or are you so insulated by your own privilege you think it could never happen to you? This appeared to me to be directed at opponents of the war. I may have been mistaken.
Well, I think it's...
and who are these intellectuals sticking up for the regime?
At the time, I think I'd just watched something with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, which had irritated me. But I think that's a good point, and I think we need to make it. There are a lot of people who... I come at this from a slightly different angle, which is that I've watched the protests in Iran over the last few years. I have several Iranian friends. I feel very strongly that what happened there was terrible, and it happened over a very long period of time. And the numbers of people dead, maimed, tortured, etc. are just extraordinary. And I completely understand your misgivings. Again, I'm not somebody who thinks that war is ever a good idea. But I do think sometimes in life, when you see something really bad happening, you have to take a moral stand. And what has happened over the years in Iran
what's the moral stand about?
The moral stand
you think this war is because we disapprove of the repression committed by the Iranian regime?
Yes, that's what I think.
You think that's what it's for?
Yes.
But in that case, you think that any regime which visits violent repression on its people should be attacked by us?
Well, there are other elements to this which I was getting to. Well, let me just finish.
It's a simple point. If this is your argument, and you're saying because of the appalling brutality and repression of this regime, we should attack it, is that a general rule for you?
I think if you can remove a regime that does those things to its people, that's not a bad idea.
I'm honestly not asking if you can remove it. And apart from anything else, there is very little sign that you can. I'm asking, is the repression by that regime a sufficient cause for an attack on that country?
No, I think you have to add to it the fact that the Iranian regime is complicit in a lot of very bad behavior, activities by, they support Hezbollah, they support Hamas, they are funding terrorism across the region, they are creating a lot of misery and pain and suffering for a lot of people in that area, and they are making it a very dangerous place. It's not just about, but they are also doing that to their own people. But they are also doing it to other people. In that case, you're saying that you can
stop them from doing that by launching a war against them.
So the regime in Iran is, I think, it is justified to try and remove it on a number of levels. One, its behaviour towards its own people over the course of nearly 50 years. terrible human rights abuses, and so on. 2, its desire to export its own brand of Islamist terror to the rest of that region and to destabilise the region and to fund terrorism.
So you're against Islamist terror?
Yes, of course I am.
Okay,
Isn't
so that would
everybody?
include, for instance, Al-Qaeda?
Yes.
Okay, so when the West recently helped to install an Al-Qaeda,
Well, I agree,
an Al-Qaeda
but
militant
that's
as the head of
stupid.
government
But-
in Syria, did you think that we should, as a result, then invade or bomb Syria to remove the person who we just installed there?
Well, I mean,
Or is our policy on this or
I
yours
don't think you should have
incoherent?
installed that person in the first place. But I agree
Well, we
with
did.
you.
That's what we did. That was the principal achievement.
Outcome, that is an unintended consequence.
Well, I don't know
And,
about that. It was quite
that is-
obvious.
That is,
I-
but
it- honestly,
the principle, Peter, is that you look at a country and you look at a regime that is absolutely toxic and rogue and doesn't respect any law, international, if it exists or otherwise, doesn't respect the sovereignty of other countries, doesn't respect human rights, doesn't respect anyone's rights.
Okay.
And you can sit there and you can say, so, okay, let me just finish, because I know you're going to, it's fine, and you can say, but if you are living in a street and there is a man across the road who beats his wife and children, who beats his dog, who sets fires to it, who behaves appallingly, and those people come to you and they say, could you please help us? What do? Do you just say, no, I'm not going to get involved? I think sometimes in life, Peter, you have to get involved and you have to take a stand. And my view is that Islamist terror is a real threat to global security, and it's also a moral threat to minorities, women, anyone who is basically, not in their club. And I think that America and Israel are right to try and halt it. I agree with you.
To try and halt it by launching...
Well, what else are they going to do? How
I don't
else
know
do you
what
launch
else
it?
they're going to...
I mean, that is the
what have they
source of
already
much of
done?
it. The
go?
Iranian regime is the source of so much terrorism that comes out of that part of the world, that is inflicted on people who live in that part of the world primarily, but also affects us from time to time. And I don't understand why everybody thinks it's okay just to go, oh, well, yes. No, these people are not okay on any level. They are wicked and they are horrible and they are vile, and they want to export their wicked, horrible, vile way of life to everywhere else. And I think you have to try and stop it.
A small diversion here. How much do you know about the division between Shia and Sunni Islam?
I don't know, as much as most people.
Well, you might observe, for instance,
they're different
what happens with Hezbollah is basically Shias in Lebanon allying with Shias in Iran, which is the major Shia power. There are Sunni terrorist strands in Islam. And I'm not going to go into it here because it becomes very complicated and even dangerous to say it. But they don't go entirely unsupported sometimes by state actors. But I just like to try this one on you. If you are rightly outraged by the repression of people, so official government figures, I won't name which government, the Health Ministry and Forensic Medical Authorities say there's around between 595 to 638 civilians were killed. This is on August 14th, 2013, in a city I also won't name. And this is in the repression of a demonstration mounted by a political organization which had recently won a fair and democratic election and had then been removed from power by a military coup. So what do you think about that? You think we should intervene to put that right?
Well, I don't know what you're
That's
talking
the
about.
official figures.
Sorry,
There's about 600 people murdered on the streets by a government which had come into power through a military putsch which had overthrown a democratically elected government.
Which government are you talking about?
Well, does it matter?
Well,
are you against this or are you for it?
Well,
I'll tell you which government it is. When you've told me whether you think we should intervene to put a stop to this and to reverse it, I'll tell you which government it is.
Well, could you explain it again? Because I wasn't.
Yeah,
really,
okay. So the official figures issued by this government from this event in August of 2013 is that approximately 600 protesters were killed by gunfire on the streets of the capital city of that country by the soldiers controlled by a junta which had come to power in a military coup which had overthrown a democratically elected government. So, do you think we should intervene to reverse that?
Well, it depends. There's a lot of questions there. What kind of democratically elected government was it?
It was democratically elected.
Was it a legitimate government?
It was completely
Because,
legitimate.
I mean, some people would say that the Islamic Republic is democratically elected,
I'll give you,
but it's not.
they'd be wrong. I'll give you a clue that it was one of the governments which came to power as a result of the Arab Spring, which people in the West, in my view, rather rashly encouraged all over the Middle East. But it was democratically elected.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody disputes its democratic credentials, or that it was overthrown by the army.
You're asking me to answer an impossible question, because what you're saying is, are the lives of 600 people killed by a military junta less valuable than the lives of all the people killed in Iran? And the truth is, no, you are effectively.
I'm saying does. No, let me finish.
Well, no, because
does your principle hold? Here is an example. These are
matters.
These are facts. I've just left out a key detail so you can't identify the country. And you're worried that if you say, yes, I think we should overthrow that government, that you'll look silly.
No, obviously I look silly
so
anyway.
You won't say.
No, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that that's 600 people. That's terrible. Obviously, that is completely unacceptable.
What do you mean by unacceptable?
Wrong is what I mean.
Wrong, but wrong isn't the same. We accept a lot which is wrong in the world.
You're trying to. So you have to be pragmatic about these things, and you have to make decisions based on what is possible and what is plausible in this world.
Okay.
So you're talking
I'm
about.
with you there.
So Islamic Republic. How many people have they killed during the course of their regime? How many people have they maimed or lives changed? The numbers are enormous.
They're pretty big, but I think killing 600 people on the streets of your capital with gunfire who are protesting against the crushing of a democratically elected government is also quite bad.
But are you seriously going to invade a country?
I don't think so. No. I'm not in favour of invading countries because of their internal affairs.
It's different.
You are.
But is that country...
hang on a minute, Sarah. No, you are the one in favour of bombing Iran.
No,
I am not.
No.
But when asked, is this enough to bomb country X, you won't say because you're afraid of being embarrassed when I tell you what country X is.
Because it's not. The two are not.
Well, why won't you say that?
Because the two are not correct comparisons. You're not comparing like with like.
Well, you never are. No countries are identical.
Well,
we don't even need to argue.
Should we have that is fundamentally rigged, Peter? Because that is not good debating. We're trying to have a sensible conversation here, and you're coming up with questions that are unacceptable. That is not a comparative. That is not a correct comparison.
China massacres its people.
This government, whoever it is they're talking about, is not funding terrorism across the entire Middle East. It is not trying to infiltrate other countries and destroy their economies and their lives. I completely agree with you. So 600 people is a tragedy and should not happen.
You're against governments that back terrorism?
No, I'm against... Are you
against governments that back terrorism?
Of course I'm against governments that back terrorism.
Okay, so what do you think about this one then?
Well, I think it's terrible.
What do you think about this one? Another question for you. In 1998, the government of a major Western European power was compelled to surrender to a terrorist organisation by the United States. What do you think about that? The country was Britain. We were made to surrender to the IRA by the pressure from the United States. How's that? If your principal objection is to terrorism,
completely.
You've got a lot of places you've got to bomb.
So at the end of the day, the question is...
You've got enough planes.
You have to, in politics, you have to sometimes... So there are no good choices, as I wrote in my column on Sunday. There are no good choices. There are only less bad choices, okay? So you make the less bad choice. I suppose in the case of... A lot of people would say, and would agree with your point of view, and that's completely okay, that what happened with the Northern Ireland Agreement... the Good Friday Agreement, was not okay. But as a result... A lot of people have not been killed.
Well, that's always the excuse for giving it to terrorism.
But it's not a bad excuse, Peter.
If you have a principled objection to terrorism, then you should be very, very unsympathetic, to put it mildly, to the United States government, and I was present during the preliminaries to this in Washington, D.C., and I know exactly what happened and why it happened, that forced this country to give in to the IRA. So if you don't like terrorism, then that's a big no-no for you. But it doesn't.
You do what you can do.
There are many, many wicked things in the world. I don't think... Although I think that behaviour by the Clinton White House was appalling, I do not think that we should bomb America as a result of it, and it would be disproportionate.
Well, we couldn't anyway.
Indeed we couldn't, and it's but the fact that you can or whether you can't isn't actually what we're arguing about at the moment. It's a question
you're arguing. You're trying
Britain is full of people like you who say let the Americans and the Israelis bomb a third country.
No, Britain is for
And
the people...
I say, why are you saying
Let me
this?
just correct you on that. Britain is for the people like me who look at a regime like Iran and think that is a very bad regime, and if something can be done about it, let's try and do it. That's what Britain is full of. And
What can be done about it?
Well-
What have we done?
Well, clearly, this has destabilised that very unpleasant regime.
Do you think assassination is a legitimate tool of a democratic, lawful country?
Well,
in foreign affairs?
it's
Do you think something we should do?
But I mean, but again, you're making the perfect the enemy of the good. What do you want? Do you want these people's lives to be run by somebody like that, or do you not?
Absolutely, I'm not making, because I am not the one.
And if you
I'm
can
not the one
intervene,
arguing
you
that a large country full of innocent people, for the most part, should be subjected to a lengthy period of aerial bombing by two major powers. Is that good? And not merely that it should be done, let's put it as mildly as we possibly can, completely outside.
So you do nothing and then
completely
what?
outside the rules of international. Who said we should do nothing?
Well, no, you say we should do nothing.
I have never said we should do
no,
nothing.
You have said we should do nothing.
Totally committed to the 2015. I'm totally committed to the 2015 JCPOA
They don't want
agreement.
to do the peace agreement. They're not interested.
They were interested.
No,
Who broke
they're
it?
not interested.
Who broke it?
They're just making the right
Who broke
noises
it?
to stop it from going away.
Sarah, who broke the peace agreement?
This
the
is a
Iranians did not.
fantasy
The
that
Iranians
there's a
did not
peace
break
agreement
it.
with the Iranians.
The agreement was broken by Donald Trump.
You think
deliberately? There's no question.
Okay,
and
fine.
the Iranians had not breached it. The agreement was broken by Donald Trump, who just tore it up.
I just think you and I are never going to agree on this, because
not asking
I'm
you to
someone
agree. I'm just saying,
who thinks that if you see something bad happening, you should try and do something about it.
Well, you're sure, but
and not turn your back on it. And you shouldn't turn your back on people who have been asking and really, really asking for help, and they have.
Charity begins at home. Do you not think? This is a country.
No.
This is a country which cannot police its own streets. Which
Well, I
cannot.
don't care about that, Peter. That doesn't
Don't you
matter.
care about that? Which cannot educate its children, which cannot even fix the potholes in its roads. And you're proposing that we get involved in an unlimited, expensive war, which will quite possibly crash the world economy, because you want to feel better about Iran.
No, it's not
That's
because I want to
basically it.
feel
You want to
better.
feel better. You don't want to do any good.
You're being very patronising now,
I'm not.
Peter. I'm
I'm
sorry, but
I'm
you
saying
are.
I really object.
It's not about feelings.
I really object
it's about
to
looking at
people,
something and
people
seeing.
calling on other people to bomb other people. I really don't like it. And it's not patronising about it. I just think if you really, really want to drop bombs on another country, you have to have a very good reason for it.
I don't want to drop bombs on other countries, but I don't think you
Well,
should
you're in
allow
favour of
rogue
the
states like
happening.
this to act with total impunity, which is what Iran has been doing for about the last 40 years.
It's not true.
It is true.
Why do you think the JCPOA was ever signed? Because Iran was under huge pressure for years from devastating sanctions, which actually made life a total misery for millions of innocent Iranians who had nothing to do with the regime.
Well, the
And the
sanctions
JCPOA was formulated to try and end those sanctions, to bring Iran back into the Committee of Nations, to allow
It didn't work.
the country.
Did it work?
It
No,
would
it
have
didn't
worked.
work.
It would
No,
have
it
worked if
wouldn't have
Donald.
worked. How much longer
How
do you
did
want
it
to,
end?
How much more rope do you want to
How
give these
did it
people
end?
to hang their own people
How
with?
did it end?
Well, it ended with military action.
No, it didn't. It ended with Donald J. Trump unilaterally pulling the United States out of it, thereby tearing it up and making it inoperative.
No,
That's
it
how
was
it ended.
inoperative way before that. He wouldn't.
No, it was
they
not.
would
This
not
is
have
simply,
done that.
That
if
is
it was,
simply not true.
Well,
the Iranians were abiding by
don't know.
their side of the agreement, and so were the Western countries which had lifted the sanctions. There was genuine hope that the Iranian crisis might have been solved peacefully, and Donald J. Trump pulled the rug out from under it and destroyed it. Even though he himself claimed to be against foreign wars, he claimed to be against regime. He claimed to be
And
against
people
regime
do,
change
until they
He claimed to be
actually find themselves in charge.
He claimed against all the things which he's now done. He also claimed last year to have obliterated the Iranian nuclear weapons establishments, which he now claims to be obliterating again.
I don't understand how anyone can ever tell whether anyone has got nuclear weapons or not, because, you know, as you know from previous discussions, I think they're completely ridiculous, and the whole thing is pointless.
There are very, very stringent means. Even North Korea has at one point in its existence allowed nuclear inspectors in. You can tell.
Yes.
You can tell.
I mean,
people knew what
you
Iran
can allow
was
inspectors
doing with its centrifuges. They knew, and the agreement, the JCPOA agreement, was constructed very carefully to keep Iran a safe distance away from developing a nuclear bomb, and the inspectors were allowed in and they inspected.
Yes, I'm sure they were taken to see. I'm sure
you
the
know who
inspectors
began-
were taken to
do
see
you know who
precisely where the
began-
nuclear weapons
do
were,
you know who
and not
began-
where the pretend nuclear weapons
well, maybe.
were.
Do you really think that American satellites are so feeble? Do you know who began the Iranian nuclear program?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
I'll guess.
I have no idea who began
the Shah of Iran.
Probably the Shah of Iran.
No, but definitely the Shah of Iran in 1973 with the backing of and encouragement of the government of the United States of America.
Yes, because the Shah of Iran was in alliance with the government of America.
True enough, but
why wouldn't he have done that?
The reason for it was that the Americans accepted the Iranian case at the time, which they've been making since, that they need civil nuclear power because they actually have a quite considerable power crisis, which I can vouch for because when I was in Iran, one of the quite frequent problems that I came across were power cuts.
Yes.
They haven't got an adequate power generation, and that's why they were going for civil nuclear power. Whether they are going for I'm not going to argue about whether they're going for a nuclear weapon. What I'm going to argue is the JCPOA absolutely contained very, very strict inspection arrangements, which would have made it extremely difficult for them to build a nuclear weapon, and the inspectors said they were abiding by it, and Donald Trump ripped it up, preferring war.
Well, perhaps
do you prefer war or do you prefer peace?
Perhaps he had other information.
Well, he never said so.
Well, why would he? It would be classified. If you had information that led you to believe that the situation was not as it was advertised, then maybe you would take a different view.
He never declared it.
He wouldn't declare it.
He never said, we have
He
this.
wouldn't declare it.
No, he didn't say we have this information.
But Peter, there is a lot that goes on in government. There's a lot that people are privy to who are in government, who are actually in charge, that none of us know about or understand.
This is
they can't
always
have
the way
total
in which the
transparency.
people of advanced countries are gulled. Oh, well, the government knows these secrets.
Well, I don't
They
know, but
can't
all
tell
I can tell you is that
it's never true.
It's true.
It isn't.
It's true. I've been very close to government and I know lots of things. I have lots of secrets in my wig. Yes.
Really? So you mean Lord Gove broke the Official Secrets Act and told you
but
these
what I
deadly
would
secrets?
do is I would say that what I would say is that this notion that everything is totally transparent and everyone knows what's going on is actual nonsense.
I think when people are digging up excuses for bombing foreign countries, then I think they're often given to saying, "Oh,
well, you may think it's an excuse.
If you
I
knew
would
what
say
we knew, you'd be fine with it. We just can't tell you. We've got this dodgy dossier which says that they can blow us up with rubbish.
We'll just have to wait 25 years, won't we, to find out?
Not really. I think sometimes you can see right on the spot when someone is telling porkies, and I think we see an American administration telling porkies. Well, this is normal for me. I expect governments to lie. I've been a journalist for long enough to know that they do, and there it is. That's not a problem for me. What was a problem for me is that people who are in many cases paid to be sceptical buy and swallow all this gibberish and end up supporting horrible wars which will make the world worse. I'll leave it at that.
Good. Excellent. After the break, we'll be doing our emails. Do join us.
This is James Maffiard from Shits and Gigs, and we're currently sponsored by TUI.
So, we love going on holiday together, love traveling and new experiences, but we can't always agree on where to go.
But that's okay, as this is where TUI comes in. With TUI, there's more options and more choice, with hundreds of destinations worldwide.
So, whatever first you want to mark, whether it's your first time away with your mates or the first time doing something new on holiday, we've chatted about trying jet skiing and trying to catch some live sports. TUI has the answer.
TUI, you pick it, they sort it. Booking T's and C's apply, ATOL and ABDA protected.
Self-praise is no praise, except for people talking about their jobs online. Like, what my barista taught me about B2B sales, or how losing a pub quiz made me a better team player. Really? Here at Indeed, we're more show than tell. Our profiles help you showcase your skills and experience so employers can focus on what you do, not what you talk about. Because actions speak louder than buzzwords. Download the Indeed app and start making the world work better for you today.
Welcome back, and we're going to go straight to this week's emails. This is from Adam Burdett. Dear Alas, Vine and Hitchens, I remember watching Peter's BBC interview on the morning the Brexit result was announced. He argued that the Conservatives and Labour had been ignoring their voters for years and were now effectively dead, and that they should be replaced by parties that truly represented their voters, possibly uniting the patriotic, socially conservative voters from both traditions. In the aftermath of the Caerphilly and Gorton and Denton by-elections, it now seems that this is happening, with voters abandoning their traditional tribal loyalties en masse to vote for parties which they feel better represent them, i.e. Reform, the Greens, Plaid, etc. Politics increasingly appears divided along social and moral and sometimes even sectarian lines rather than economics. Is this how Mr. Hitchens expected his prediction to unfold? All the best.
Well, it wasn't a prediction, it was a desire. And no, because I don't think there's anything seriously socially conservative about the new right. On the contrary, it seems by and large to have accepted the Cultural Revolution and not to have any concerns about it. The idea that it's going to come to the rescue of the married family, for instance, is fanciful. Also, it seems to be remarkably keen on war, which serious Conservatives are not. So, no, I'm disappointed, though not hugely disappointed, because it was always a pretty long shot as to whether anything could be done anyway. I personally more or less given up hope after David Cameron managed to con millions of Conservative patriots into voting for a new Labour Party in 2010.
I mean, I think the point that Adam makes about everything just being very fractured is correct, because I think that the sort of two-party system two-and-a-half-party system that we've been used to doesn't really work in this political atmosphere because there's too many elements.
Well, it doesn't work because the two parties are more or less identical. Had really been so since David Cameron took over the Tory party.
No, but I think that if you don't have proportional representation, you throw up these very odd results, don't you?
No, proportional representation just makes it impossible to get rid of people you don't like or to have strong government. And it also usually entrenches the left in any country where it exists, and it would solve nothing. The first past post system is fine if you have two genuinely differing parties. Richard Neville, the editor of Oz in the 1960s, said a thing of great cleverness. He said there is an inch of difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, but it is in that inch that we all live. And when that inch closed, which it really did, particularly in the David Cameron era, and there was no difference, then we had nowhere to live. There was no proper political dissent or debate anymore. And Parliament, which has to be an adversarial chamber to work, stopped being an adversarial chamber. That's why it became so noisy.
I'd say it's pretty
people
adversarial
had to pretend
at the
to be
moment.
against each other when they weren't.
I mean, I think it is pretty adversarial at the moment. I think if you look at the Tories and Labour are very far left and very much in thrall to hard left.
Really?
Yes. And also to certain sectarian elements. Because come on, I mean, every single thing they've tried to do, which has been even remotely conservative, has been overturned by their backbenchers. Welfare reform, etc., etc. I think they're pretty hard left, this government.
Isn't conservative, it's just good management. But
I think it is good management, but it's also a conservative policy.
Well, it used to be a Labour policy.
Fine. But the point is that I think this government has had real difficulty. They are being pushed further and further left. And not only that, they are now under attack from a party, the Greens, which are would that they would go back to saving hedgehogs. But actually, no, they're even further left than the sort of leftist elements of Labour. So I think there's a polarisation happening, but there's also fraction. Things are fracturing within that polarisation. So
the Tory party has embraced most. The Green Party is merely a slightly more intense version of the Tory party. The Tory party embraced global warming and net zero almost totally.
But the Green Party doesn't talk about global warming and net zero
Tory
anymore.
MPs, I think, voted against the net zero proposals in Parliament. The Tory party completely bought it and is totally in line with it. The Tory party has been for years in line with the social, moral and cultural revolution. And everything from same-sex marriage onwards, and there is no fundamental difference. The Greens caricature. The Greens say we will legalise hard drugs, whereas the Tories and the Labour Party do legalise hard drugs, but don't openly say so. They just stop making any effort to prosecute their possession. These are not fundamental differences. The whole country is in the hands of people who are social, moral, and educational liberals, who, oddly enough, also have strange penchant for invading foreign countries.
Fine. Let's do another letter. Alas, Starsky and Hitch. I like this one. Which one am I? Starsky or Hutch? I think it's probably Starsky.
I can't really be called Hitch. That was very much a name which belonged to my late brother, and I can't use it.
I listened with sympathy as Peter berated e-bikes and their riders, and I confess I find myself nodding along. Actually, my daughter agrees with you on e-bikes, but he's missing the main reason they've exploded in popularity. It is now far easier and far cheaper to ride an e-bike than to ride a motorcycle. Peter, of course, has his motorcycle licence, and I look forward to seeing him riding again in his 80s. But for a young person today, the legal route onto a motorbike is daunting. This is true, because my daughter tried to do around £150 to £200 for a CBT certificate valid for only 2 years, roughly £1,000 for a minimally reliable second-hand bike, £500 for basic protective gear, insurance often £1,000 a year in cities like London, and then £800 to £1,500 if you want a full licence. So if you simply want to poodle around the city, your choices are pay roughly £1,500 up front plus substantial yearly cost, or buy an illegally modified e-bike for about £1,000, skip the gig, ignore speed limits and traffic lights, and park almost anywhere for free. Faced with that choice, I suspect 21-year-old Peter might have made exactly the same decision. Love the pod, Chris.
Well, I might have done it. I made all kinds of other very bad decisions, but it doesn't mean they would have been good ones. But it's not quite the same as a motorbike. There are differences. It is, except in the case of the openly illegal ones, is far more underpowered. But of course, there is a point. The French, I think back in the 1960s, allowed people without licenses to ride these things called mobilettes, which you still see in remote rural parts of France.
You don't need a license to ride a 50cc,
you don't need their 50cc, and you don't. If you're over a certain age, you can still ride them without a license. And there was pressure on the British Ministry of Transport to allow the same thing, and they said, no, we are not breaching the rule that you can't ride a motor vehicle without a license. And I think they were right. In no doubt at all that there's a huge hole in our whole road safety system, and that's what it is. Anybody who thinks that riding a slime bike is like riding a motorbike.
No, it's not like riding a motorbike.
But on the other hand, I'm quite serious when I say the minimum age for riding a motorbike should be 80. They're far too dangerous for people in their teens and 20s to ride, as I have the scars to prove.
I just wish they wouldn't be in the cycle lanes. That's what I would like.
Well, quite so. But do you try? Who's going to stop them? Mr. Plod.
Alas, Sarah and Peter, on one of your recent episodes, I thought it was interesting what you had to say about the relationship between Britain and the United States. You both seem well-travelled, so I was wondering how would you describe the relationship in the current state of affairs between Britain and Australia and New Zealand? Kind regards, Jack. I don't know. I've always thought quite cordial between Australia and Britain. I've never been to New Zealand, so I couldn't speak for that. I don't think they particularly like our king, do they?
Some do, but a lot of British people don't realise about Australia is how multicultural it has become. It's quite a left-wing country. It's got an awful lot of migrants in it from all over the world, but many from European countries, for instance, who don't. I think Paul Keating, when he was Prime Minister, I think his wife had been born in the Netherlands, and she found it quite difficult to, as it were, show allegiance to the Queen of England, because she was actually much more in tune. There are a lot of people in Australia who come from either European countries or indeed from the Middle East now, who don't feel that at all. And it's not the British and Irish country, which it used to be before, I suppose, about 1970. And I'd say it's also extremely politically correct.
It is very politically correct. That's what I do know.
New Zealand also likewise, and both of them shifted a long way away from Britain, particularly after the Second World War in Australia, the Singapore disaster, and of course the First World War and the Gallipoli catastrophe also caused a lot of bitterness among Australians who'd been told they were fighting for the motherland, didn't feel their efforts had been rewarded or marked or understood. And it's fascinating. In Sydney, there's a lovely park area down by the sea, and there's a set of steps called the Fleet Steps. Do you know what fleet they commemorate?
No.
The American fleet, the Great White Fleet that Theodore Roosevelt sent around the world before the First World War. And the drift of Australia and ultimately New Zealand as well, into first the American and then increasingly in New Zealand's case, the Chinese sphere of influence, makes them much less British than you expect them to be or than they used to be. In fact, New Zealand is going through an extraordinary period of emigration of New Zealanders to Australia.
Really?
Because they feel their lives are too I mean, I think Jacinda Ardern has recently decided to move to Australia as an example of this. And New Zealand, as a result, has been getting immigration from all kinds of parts of the world which are not at all British connected. So if you go and visit them, you will not find what you expect. I've visited Australia twice and New Zealand once. And they're both very beautiful and lovely places to visit, but they're not really British anymore. New Zealand's more British. So oddly enough, it reminded me more of Northern Ireland than anywhere else I've ever been.
Interesting. Why?
Partly the climate and the smallness,
all right, yeah.
And the intimacy of it, and partly the landscape. But there's something about it that it's by no means a fractious place full of enmity, but there's something about it which is reminiscent of which of course again is people never realise. Northern Ireland is a lovely part of the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. This one is brilliant. 10 years ago, Pete, this is for you, Peter. 10 years ago, you almost visited the University of Kent at my invitation. The date simply wouldn't play ball. This is from Emilio Cipriano. I think that's how you say his surname. Anyway, on your motorbike chat, Grab a used Honda Valkyrie. I like the idea of you riding the Valkyrie. Honda's own
Wagnerian.
It does,
to
yes.
me.
Honda's own flat 6 gem silky 1520cc liquid cooled 6-pot. I've no idea what any of that means, but I've read it.
I know what some of it means.
100 HP and 130 Nm of effortless torque, indeed. Like this podcast, effortless torque, I'd say. Effortless torque. Dripping in chrome, plush as a Bentley, and bomb-proof reliable. All yours in the UK for a cheeky 5k or so. Pure ridiculous fun. You'll thank me. My question to you is, do you have any riding experience? Gosh, it's all a bit saucy, that email, wasn't it?
Well, we like a bit of sauce here, particularly towards the end of the programme.
Anyway, Emilio wants to know if you have any riding experience.
It ended rather abruptly one afternoon in Oxfordshire when I steered my, be technical here, BSA A10 650 pre-unit construction motorcycle into the side of a pork pie lorry with a loud bang. And
Are you okay? Did you?
No, I wasn't. I had a very badly broken ankle, but fortunately, the whoever owned the pork pie lorry, and I'm not sure which company it was so concerned about the freshness of their product that they had two-way radios in the cab.
Okay,
and that's why they were able to summon an ambulance with such speed, which is why I still.
Did they give you a pork pie while you were waiting for the ambulance?
I wouldn't have been interested. I absolutely promise you. I would. It is all true about the world slowing down.
Yeah.
The things you do. I remember having the good sense to be able to turn off the engine and turn off the fuel as I lay by the road with my leg pointing.
So did you? Was it a head-on collision?
No, it was a glancing blow.
Okay. So what?
It would have been my head on. I wouldn't be here. I promise you.
So were you trying to overtake? Or was he overtaking you?
I just misjudged.
You just misjudged a bend. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I get that. Yes, and that was it.
And that was it. I haven't. I've ridden pillion since.
Okay.
Which I don't like, but I did. It was a photographer, and we had to get in a hurry to some location. And he said, "If you go on the back, we can get there." And so I did, but I didn't enjoy it. Well, anyway, a Honda Valkyrie sounds tremendous. I think you should definitely get one of those. I have my thoughts on a Brough Superior, the kind that Lawrence Arabia used to ride. Very British. Very British. Very for lots and lots and lots of chrome and pipes and a nice strong rumble as it goes. Very good. Well, maybe I should get a Honda Valkyrie. Anyway, that's all. You should. That's all we have time for. Long to see you. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can email alas@dailymail.co.uk. You can leave a comment on Spotify or send us a voice note on WhatsApp on 077 96 657 512. Start your message with the word alas.
This is James Mafuyad from Shits and Gigs, and we're currently sponsored by TUI.
So, we love going on holiday together, love traveling and new experiences, but we can't always agree on where to go.
But that's okay, as this is where TUI comes in. With TUI, there's more options and more choice, with hundreds of destinations worldwide.
So, whatever first you want to mark, whether it's your first time away with your mates or the first time doing something new on holiday, we've chatted about trying jet skiing and trying to catch some live sports. TUI has the answer. TUI,
you pick it, they sort it. Booking T's and C's apply. Atoll and ABDA protected.
Self-praise is no praise, except for people talking about their jobs online. Like, what my barista taught me about B2B sales, or how losing a pub quiz made me a better team player. Really? Here at Indeed, we're more show than tell. Our profiles help you showcase your skills and experience so employers can focus on what you do, not what you talk about. Because actions speak louder than buzzwords. Download the Indeed app and start making the world work better for you today.
Acast recommends.
Hi, I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Nicole.
We're two journalists, and every week we tuck into the news so you don't have to.
We cover everything from the highbrow. But Reform only has 8 MPs in the Commons. They're not the official opposition. Isn't this more symbolic than constitutional?
To the slightly lower brow. Imagine finding that crown.
Like, and pretty much everything else in between.
Basically, think Rory and Alistair,
but with better hair.
The News Diet. Brought to you by Acast, available on all streaming platforms.
And you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at NewsDietPod.
Acast powers the world's top podcasts, including
the High Performance Podcast, Table Manners,
and the show you're listening to right now.